Welcome into our Over the Hump series, where we peel back the curtain and give you a little inside look at what's going on in the athletic department here this fall. I'm Evan Budrovich, delighted to be joined by Dr. Andrew Carter, the Associate Athletic Director for Mental Health, Wellness, a bunch of other different items that he oversees for our department. Carter, let's dive right in and start with mental health of student athletes, especially during this time in the pandemic where many of our fall sports are not going to participate, and there's a need for keeping students engaged. And one of the programs you guys really touch on is Hope Happens Here. And I want to ask you about the role that plays in keeping student athletes involved and having that open dialogue with students.
Yeah, so obviously back in March we had to pivot hard to online learning and online everything, and one of those online things was virtual counseling. So we have our behavioral health counselors still basically on call, working with our student athletes on a daily basis through different virtual technologies. They've been really good about, making sure that that's still available from a one-on-one basis for our student athletes. From a Hope Happens Here standpoint, we've been working on a few things. There should be a video coming out in the next week. And a lot of times those videos hit home with our student athletes because it's peer-to-peer. I can talk all day about, the importance of this and that. And, sometimes it's in one ear and out the other, but with it coming from their peers, from other student athletes, there's always a little bit more of a engagement there. And we're going to continue to do whatever we need to do to support our student athletes. From a mental health standpoint, everybody's struggling with something right now. We've reached out to seniors in the spring who had their seasons cut short and created a video for our fall student athletes, and that's on our social media. And we've just been trying to engage and trying to be unique in our approach and see how we can get out to everybody. During this time, it's definitely hard because of certain things like, Zoom fatigue and, just being online. And what we're trying to do is form a little bit of a balance there. So we're not overwhelming our student athletes, but letting them know that we're here for them and we're here to support them. And, we're still continuing to do programming and engagement there. And one of the big things, in addition to, the Hope Happens Here thing, is our speaker series. In this fall, we have Victoria Garrick, who is an alumni from your alma mater there, Evan. And she's been getting pretty famous on social media from her work with mental health and body image. And I'm really looking forward to getting her on campus. She was supposed to be here in the spring, but she will definitely be able to engage with our student athletes, and really looking forward to getting her to speak to our student athletes on September 24th.
Andrew, a big part of this, obviously, when the kids are separated, is, like you said, using Zoom and using phone calls to stay connected. What has encouraged you about, now that more of these kids are back, just their response to how you and the coaching staffs have been able to reach out and try to maintain that dialogue?
Yeah. Everybody's been super positive since we've been back on campus. Obviously social distanced and wearing masks, but I got to meet with every single team during their beginning of the year meetings to talk about a lot of the things that we're trying to do and the initiatives that we have to, again, continue to engage our student athletes. And those conversations have gone well, and I'm looking forward to continuing to expand those. And obviously this is a unique time, but I think our student athletes are doing a really good job in trying to continue to create some level of normalcy and make sure that they're taking care of themselves. And like I said, we are here to help support them in everything that they do from a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint. And we really want to make sure that they know that.
Especially during this time, nothing seems more important than developing student athletes kind of for the future professionally, as once they finish their career, and you see it can end in an instant for so many kids. Mm-hmm. What has been some of those challenges? And I know you are also embarking in some programs to help get speaker series and get kids engaged with professionals that graduated from here and are doing things in the real world?
Yeah, so last year we started a Campbell Made program. We're going to continue with our Campbell Made program through this year. It might look a little bit different, obviously, because everything's going to be virtual. But we're still working to create a platform where we bring young alumni back to engage with our student athletes, to tell them about their experience as a Campbell student athlete. Again, I can talk till I'm blue in my face, but as soon as a student athlete hears from a former student athlete or a current student athlete, there's definitely something that hits home a little bit more. We're still available for anything career development related. From a one-on-one to, we're planning on doing different breakout sessions this fall with, resume writing and, networking and those sort of things. And, we're not putting a pause on any of that. We're going to continue to push on and, again, create a space that we can continue to develop our student athletes, because it's not about these 4 or 5 years or 7 after all these compliance waivers get passed, but it's about the next 40 years, and we want to make sure that our student athletes know that that's what they're preparing for, and we're doing what we can to help them out there.
I know a big issue in politics, and especially in our culture today, is being active and voting and being able to contribute this fall with elections, and also just being socially aware. And I want to touch on something you guys in the athletic department is really pushing with Campbell Voting and trying to partner to inform and educate student athletes. How valuable is that, just from your perspective, of getting these students engaged in their community and with voting as well?
And it's huge. The big thing about voting, we're taking a nonpartisan approach to this, and encouraging our student athletes to do their due diligence and look into every candidate that they vote for. And do their civic duty of voting. I mean, it's a privilege to be able to do that. Last night, we kicked off our CU Votes initiative. We've partnered with a group called Secure the Ballot, which is a group that encourages basically students and student athletes in North and South Carolina to register to vote. We had a really good event last night, a lot of information, and looking to continue that. And, our goal is to have 100% of our student athletes register to vote well before the November 3rd election. And with that, this was a SAC inspired initiative. We partnered with SAC and the School of Public Health this summer to develop a survey to basically look at the climate of our of how culturally competent and how our student athletes feel that we are doing from a racial equality standpoint. So the grad school of public health helped us to develop that instrument, and we sent it out to our student athletes, and it's going to end up driving a lot of our conversations in the fall. And we're excited about where we're going and how we can grow, especially in regards to educating and encouraging our student athletes to use their voice and be educated on social justice topics.
You mentioned that holistic experience. That's such a big part. And I know the Big South and Campbell have both pushed to make November 3rd a day where students can take off and be able to vote. So that's such a huge issue as well. And Carter, among your many roles, you work with the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, the SAC, as we say, and your role with them has been organizing these committees, not only with presidents and vice presidents, but really having student athletes take some ownership of their involvement with the students. What has surprised you, or what has kind of impressed you about their leadership ability in stepping into these roles?
Our encouraging them to be leaders has been awesome, because they've stepped up. We restructured our whole student athlete advisory committee last year. And now we have a number of subcommittees focusing on all things student athlete welfare. So we have one group that works solely on communication and social media. We have our Camels Connected group, who is our diversity and inclusion arm. We have community engagement, and international student athlete support as well. So we're trying to make sure that all of our student athletes are recognized from some area in SAC, but the leaders of these individual subcommittees and our SAC exec board has been awesome. You know, from the jump in March when we went online and they put out a statement and it was heartfelt, and it was to the student athletes, from the student athletes. And it's been really good. And you know, SAC is the driving force in a lot of the things we do. You know, we want to make sure that we're doing things that ultimately will, you know, further the engagement of our student athletes, and you know, we want to make sure that, you know, their voices are heard from our administration all the way up to the cabinet, and we want them to know that, you know, they do have a voice and to use it.
Laura McNamara Clement from the women's basketball team, heavily involved as the SAC president, with many working alongside her. But Carter, my final question for you is the value at a campus like this, where there are so many international student athletes, different backgrounds and creeds, like you mentioned, but to be able to start to form some cultural development with a multicultural council and really having those conversations that are sometimes tough to have on a playing field and things like that. What kind of drove that message, and what's inspired you, or at least given you confidence based on what's taken place so far?
Yeah. So back to Lauren McNamara Clement being an absolute rock star and taking the lead on so many different initiatives from the SAC perspective. She's been very, very integral in everything that we're doing. You know, the social justice movement and the want for racial equality isn't a new thing, but it's new to a lot of our students because it's more prevalent on social media and you see those sort of things. But you know, they're doing a great job of you know, trying to get their voices heard. And from a SAC perspective, you know, we're trying to make some differences, make some changes on campus. You know, you mentioned the Multicultural Council. That's a new initiative that started on campus, and we will have SAC members involved in that, and that's big because that's not just a student athlete thing. That's not an athletics thing. That's a Campbell thing. So having student athlete voices on that panel will definitely be helpful in making changes. And you know, I think, you know, one of the things that we came out with in June, and obviously Lauren was a big driver in this, was our social media campaign talking about social justice. And one of our videos, the take-home message was, "Together we can do more." And you know, that message kind of hits home so frequently because, you know, none of us are in this by ourselves. None of our student athletes are struggling through anything by themselves. Everybody's going through something. And, you know, obviously, you know, if you have a social support system, you can do more, you can be better, and you can do what you need to do. But, you know, from our SAC perspective, you know, we also came out with a new era of SAC. And our communications committee came up with the acronym of sacrifice, accountability, adaptability, and Campbell Strong. And you can look at our social to get a little bit more information there. But you know, that's who our student athletes are. It's a representation of them, and you know they sacrifice, they are accountable, they are adaptable, and you know, they have pride. And you know, we can take all this stuff and put it together, you know, from a career development standpoint, from a holistic development of our student athletes. We know of the transferable skills of just being a student athlete, and you know, the things that go along with leadership and teamwork and time management and, you know, courage and passion and those things that just come naturally to a student athlete. Those are skills that can be developed, and things that employers look for. And one of the big things in that is adaptability, and being able to, what we're hearing a lot of pivoting, and, being able to change things on the fly. And that's one of the huge transferable skills of student athletes. And, they are a resilient bunch, and, the more we can do to support them from an administrative standpoint, the better off I think everybody's going to be.
Well, Dr. Carter, certainly March 12th opened our eyes to a lot of things in this world, and I'm glad that with the 600 plus student athletes here, there's a lot of initiatives taking place, and you are also one of the most highly educated men in our department, so it's nice to sit down, learn a little bit from you, and we appreciate the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Evan.